we listen in, we understand what works and what doesn't, and we build AI agents that replicate top performers. So with lenders like iLending, we were able to increase by 30% the uplift and conversion rate for marketing campaigns.
Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. If you haven't already done so, definitely take a look at my new book, The AI Marketing Machine. It's available as an ebook, of course, on Amazon and also a paperback. Check it out. I think you'll find it interesting. And right now, the price is 99 cents, but that will not last for long. Get that book right now. And if you do, if you get it, definitely leave a couple of reviews for me. Otherwise, today we're talking to Devere Ginsburg, and let me tell you a little bit about him. Devere Ginsburg is an entrepreneur, AI researcher, and founder of Encore, which is a fintech startup focused on AI-driven financial advisory solutions. With a background in machine learning and deep learning, he has authored multiple research publications and is passionate about applying advanced AI technologies to solve real-world business and financial challenges. Devere, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Marketing's operating system has been replaced. Not upgraded, not improved. Replaced, completely and totally replaced. AI isn't a tool you bolt onto your existing marketing organization. It's a fundamental redesign of how marketing thinks, operates, and creates value. And most CMOs are already behind. The AI marketing machine is the field guide for marketing leaders who want to get ahead of that curve. Built on more than a decade of the marketing machine methodology and interviews with over 100 CMOs, this book shows you how to harness generative and analytic AI together, without losing the human edge that makes great marketing unforgettable. This isn't theory, this is the playbook. How to redesign your team, how to build AI into the foundation of how you work, how to prove ROI in the boardroom, and how to lead the intelligent marketing machine that wins in the marketplace. Marketing's future is already here. The question is whether you're building it or watching someone else do it. The AI marketing machine, available now.
Hey guys, thank you very much. Yes, it's a pleasure as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, so how did you get involved in AI and marketing? It looks like you've got a strong background in AI on the machine learning side, but now with Gen AI, how did you get involved in all this?
Yeah, for sure. So as to my background, I hold a PhD in computer science. I've been building conversational AI agents and recommendation engine models for the entirety of my career. I started at Facebook building recommendation engines and predictive models for news feeds and others, moving to Microsoft building recommendation engines actually for third-party enterprises. And it started with us being able to analyze text before LLMs even existed in order to better craft and understand what should be the next product for each customer. So the concept of a next best action or next best product is something that was pretty popular even before natural language processing or Gen AI existed, but usually it only used the financial information, right? Or the purchasing history. Think of Netflix or Spotify. But then when natural language processing came in, and this was usually what I did in my career, we were able to also analyze what clients are saying and what vendors are telling in order to better understand even more, not only what you should recommend, but what should you say as you recommend that specific product. And sometimes the client didn't even know, but it might be the case where you, Guy, and me would get a very different email suggesting the same product. So even when you recommend the same product, you can take different routes into why you are the right person to buy that product for the right time. And then ChatGPT came out, and of course, everything got transformed radically, truly, at least in our business, in minutes. And I was in that point where I said, we all were optimizing for the first touch point, but now with Gen AI, we can actually change the entire communication. So if beforehand we would send a personalized email and then tell you, please go to the website or please leave your phone number and someone will call in. Now with Gen AI, whether it's text or voice, we can actually craft an entire conversation. And that was the point where I decided to leave the giants and open Encore. And Encore today is, and of course I'm not objective, but the only platform in the world that doesn't only treat voice AI and chat AI agents as a deflection tool, where deflection is basically make sure that the client is speaking with a bot and not speaking with a human, which is something that we can discuss later on. But for me, that's just a horrible metric to measure, to something that actually engages and increase conversion rates as it speaks with an end customer.
Well, that personalization is just so critical, and you've certainly talked a little bit about it. But what actually does that mean? What is it when a customer experiences it? What are they really noticing?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we are identifying when a client is relevant for a CD or a deposit product or even taking a loan or opening a new checking account. And we would interact with them in a proactive manner. So we would create a proactive engagement with that end customer. And we would provide them service in a way that is personalized for them. Now, you're asking how the client actually perceive it, or what is the experience. There I would say that the way our tech works is that we actually take all the conversations that pro relationship managers are conducting within the organization today. So let's take bank ABC Bank, right? And they already have relationship managers. And these relationship managers, most of them are doing amazing work. But unfortunately, from scale considerations, they cannot speak with all customers, right?
Mhm.
So most customers are getting the mediocre, I would say, service as retail customers. What we are able to do is to listen to how these professional relationship managers conducting calls and actually replicate what they do at scale. So even retail customers are getting the same relationship high net worth individuals usually get.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one of the challenges, though, is especially in banking and financial services, we work with some banking customers as well as insurance, and is the regulation and the governance and the risk potentially, or at least as the bank or the fintech or the financial services company might perceive, is that they might send something out that would be maybe risky, offensive, or what have you. How do you get past the lawyers that say, well, listen, I need to read everything that goes out before you send it out? How do you get past that for the personalization?
Yeah, 100%. So I would split my answer into two. First of all, I would say that probably in the first time in our life, regulations actually move quicker than what you would expect, and regulations and compliance actually help businesses like Encore. Because before regulation came, and I'm speaking a year ago, whether it's the California Act or the EU AI Act, before regulation came in, as you mentioned, many banks froze, saying, we don't know what we can and cannot do. And now, and I'm literally speaking 2026 as we record it, new regulation come in and actually define, yes, you need to make sure that the client knows proactively that they are speaking with a bot. Great. I think that clients today are not intimidated by it. The agent sounds so human that
Hmm.
no one cares. But regulation actually allows you to have mistakes, and they define what is valid and okay and what is not. So the regulator actually understands hallucinations exist. Hallucinations is not something that you can take to zero in the next 12 to 24 months, but at the same time, the potential that you can have from AI is so vast that this doesn't make sense to disable just because hallucinations might exist. What I would say, and that's the second layer, is that still, when it comes to decisioning, redlining, authorization, underwriting, all of that, at least with us, Gen AI is not the deciding factor. So we would outreach, we would craft, and of course, we will have another AI agent verifying that what the AI agent, the first AI agent said is compliant. And that's a third party service that we provide. So it's another layer of protection. But at the end of the day, if you guy pressed the banner or the email, decided to take that loan, and we are taking you through that process, the deciding factor will not be a Gen AI personalized message. And I think that's a
Mhm.
good thing. I think that where tech sits today, being that concierge guiding is something that Gen AI does at least as good as humans. But today with tech, even humans are not the only guiding factor within an underwriting process, right? You have FICO and you have credit scoring and you have very clear rules to make sure that that offer sits within the boundaries. And Gen AI is not part of these boundaries, and I think that's exactly the good balance between where we add value and where we don't.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And plus, I can see where, on the marketing side, where the messages are outbound and I guess, generative AI generated, as opposed to kind of then the final sign up and putting your signature on the loan or on the CD or whatever.
Exactly, 100%. Exactly.
The bigger companies, the banks and these insurance companies and whatever, they're the ones with the money. And so, and especially in the US, in this litigious society that we have, the those are the companies that are going to get sued first because they do have the money. And so I don't know, it sounds like the regulation is allowing those mistakes to get through, which then hopefully is a way for the companies with the money to protect themselves. Have there been any cases like that where the companies have lost?
Yeah, so they have. And I think these are exactly the places where companies didn't protect themselves, or sometimes. And of course, as a vendor, I will always recommend you to work with a vendor because LLMs are at least as hard as any other SaaS solution, and we can discuss that in a moment. But there were companies, one of the biggest airlines in Canada, I won't mention their names, to I think the largest shipping company in the world, building their own chatbots, and then and you can all look it up in the internet afterwards or even ask an LLM. So one of the biggest airlines in Canada, their chatbot, which they created themselves, it uh, it faked a cancellation policy.
Mm,
So clients asked what are the cancellation policy. For some reason, they weren't able to even trace back why it did that. It simply created something completely fictional that didn't come from anywhere within their website. And because clients decided what and when to buy tickets based on that cancellation policy, actually, the court forced them to run by what the chatbot said. And same thing with, again, one of the biggest shipping companies in the world. So and this is because LLMs are very hard, and thinking in that build versus buy dynamics, that you can build yourself something that companies, whether it's startups or giants, are building with sometimes thousands of engineers supporting it and millions of dollars on investments. I do think that that's the wrong thing to do. So definitely there are risks associated to that, but you have all these amazing companies. Encore is doing something very special, but there are companies 100 times bigger than Encore. They're doing very similar things, and they are not getting sued.
Mm.
and Microsoft is not getting sued. And I think there is a very good reason for that. There are right ways to build with this tech.
Well, if you guys have gotten past that, that is just awesome. And I will definitely pass your company name along to a couple of clients because it is really a challenge. But if you've done it, that is awesome. So let's talk. I mean, and I didn't mean to get into the negative side. I apologize for that.
No, no,
Let's talk
that's
about the
okay. I think it's very important because today, first of all, it became an extremely executive sell. So even early on within the discussion, I find myself with the CEOs, presidents of banks, and I think it's very different. I was selling other SaaS solutions, and usually we would get to executives only at the final stage, sometimes even getting to seven-figure deals without an executive in the room because executives don't want to deal with cyber, right? They
Mm,
don't want to deal with CRMs. But AI provides a business opportunity that gets CEOs to the room much faster. So it's only fair that we will discuss risk as well, while at the same time, and I'm always giving that analogy, we have Sam Altman doing a YouTube piece showing how he's able to build an entire platform in 5 minutes with ChatGPT, right? So CEOs of banks sometimes see that video and say, we don't need vendors. If Sam Altman did it in 5 minutes on stage, we can do it as well. So I do think that discussing the challenges is is actually working in our favor in some sense because today the biggest challenge that we have is not competing against other vendors, is competing against CIOs that believe, and I think rightfully so, they are super talented, they have the right resources, but they don't understand how big of a project it is going to be.
yeah. Well, that's I always say it's conceptually simple. It's incredibly simple, but it's
And,
incredibly difficult to implement. And
yeah,
that's
I
then
love
where,
it.
you have to have the experience to be able to do that. And
Exactly. I will use it. It's conceptually simple. Exactly. Exactly that. I think many things are conceptually simple when it
yeah,
comes to.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the positives. So, give us a couple of case studies where you've really made a difference and what that meant in terms of either ROI or customer satisfaction or what have you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, we have many clients from lenders, auto lenders, and mortgage banks, as well as banks where we usually focus on the whether it's marketing or sales side, and as well as usually outbound. So we are working with many lenders where they would usually have loan officers making calls to lost leads, people leaving their details, no one reached out to them. And the biggest issue there, and I believe that some of the listeners experience that within their business as well, they can have, let's say, 50,000 new leads a month, right? But they only have 50 people in their call center, so they can reach out to, and I'm being extremely generous here, 5,000 clients a month. There are 45,000 clients that are not even going to get a call just because they had shortage in capacity. At the same time, having a bot calling them, not generating a personalized experience is just as poor, maybe even worse, because if you are working with, let's say, lender car X, and you're getting an awful call from a bot that makes you extremely frustrated, you didn't benefit anything. So usually what we do is, again, we sit within that call center, we listen in, we understand what works and what doesn't, and we build AI agents that replicate top performers. So with lenders like iLending, we were able to increase by 30% the uplift and conversion rate for marketing
Mm.
campaigns. We're working with banks like Byline Bank, increasing loan underwriting. So working on various use cases, always around increasing and generating more revenue. So it's these lost leads, clients not getting personalized relationship management experience, and scaling the top performers you already have within the institution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I like your example of taking the top performers, and then and to your point, the those 45,000 would otherwise not get contacted. And one of the things, I learned early on when I was a young marketer was if you over market your product and you don't have the capacity to respond, you're just generating demand for your competition. And
Wow,
so this
exactly. Yeah,
uh, so this then allows you to handle the 5,000, but also then have a good way to handle the 45,000 as well. Great example. Um,
yeah.
all right, it sounds like you're mostly involved in the banking side. Do you get into other areas like insurance or otherwise?
Yeah. We actually work a lot with insurers from travel insurance to life as well, claims,
Hmm.
where again, we are not, we understand and respect how complex some of these processes can be. But before touching the underwriting process or authorization process of claims, for example, you have a huge market and opportunity when it comes to proactive servicing that you are not even tapping into. So we are speaking with insurers providing travel insurance. They know their customers and they know who is going to fly and when. They just don't have the capacity to proactively reach out to them and call, right? So it's there, and sometimes I sit with CEOs saying, I now understand that AI is not only a cost reduction tool. I can do things that I dreamt of today with the existing tech. So truly, and sometimes, I'm doing many podcasts, and sometimes people ask, "Well, aren't you making jobs get lost, right?" And I will say that luckily we are working in a space where we are not letting anyone go. We are making executives' dreams come true. And the
Hmm.
thing I love the most is when I have a CMO or a CEO with me saying, this is a use case or this is an initiative we always dreamt of, but we never had the capacity to actually execute with our staff. Because at the same time, and I think many people forget it, if you want to now hire 20 people for a call center to do outbound credit card offers, for example, you can't find the people,
Mm.
right? Can't find the people. If you even if you want talented call center personnel, you can't find them. So having that agility to train, onboard, and create those proactive engagement experiences is what we focus on.
Yeah, well, I so much agree with you on the personalization and then the value that it gives, because you're right, it's not just a way to replace people. It's not that at all. It's actually a way to drive more sales from your existing team and then also potentially justify more teams so you can drive more sales. So
Exactly.
and personalization, we experience it every day, whether we know it or not. Whether you're watching TV and you see a commercial on there, quite often that commercial is tied exactly to your past experience. So, but anyway, I know we've got a short timeline here. Let me cut it off there, but I do have one last question for you. And that is, what advice would you give an up and coming new marketer that's now seeing themselves as competing against the Gen AI and the LLMs?
Yeah, 100%. So I think it depends a lot on where you operate, whether it's within a big enterprise or a new fintech. I will say, I think that for the first time, incumbents have a better and bigger potential utilizing tech than the younger startups. And I know that maybe some people can raise their eyebrows. I will say again, Gen AI can leverage your own data in a way that no prior tech was able to, which means that incumbents that sit on massive amounts of data can actually utilize what they already own and do in a way that is 10 times more efficient than younger startups. So if you are a young marketeer working for a bank existed for 30 years or more, start by taking your call recordings, transcripts, emails, CRM logs, and study them. Yes, you can
Hmm.
have solutions like Encore to help you do that, but you can also read. And when we finish that interaction mining process with a new client, and interaction mining is the first process where we take all of the data and we make sense out of it. Again, we see executives saying, I had no idea this is what is going on within my business. And this is exactly the experience that we want, because when we are there, we can actually do meaningful business.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you're so right. And, I think the other thing that is so critical is is having the data. It is the data that drives the LLMs to give you that significantly better answer. And what I always say is the LLMs are basically the average of everything that you can find on the internet. But what you need is not the general answer. You want a specific answer, and the only way to get there is to have really good data on the input side of the LLMs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So we're going to have to close here, but where can folks learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, so first of all, because we just came out of stealth, if you will look for Encore AI, whether within Gen AI platforms like Chat and Claude or just in Google, articles from TechCrunch, Insider, The Economist, all the way to your local news outlet, our name will pop up. Of course, I'm extremely available on my LinkedIn, so just reach out. I would be happy to chat. And yeah, I think that's the easiest way.
Fantastic. Well, Devere, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and great discussion. And I think it sounds like you've gotten, for me anyway, you've gotten past the real challenge of personalization or hyper personalization in regulated industries, where where there's always a fear to move forward. Well, so thank you, and for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And if you would like, there is actually a full chapter or two in my book, The AI Marketing Machine, which you can find on Amazon and other places. Devere, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.